Hey friends, it's Therese and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, if y'all can tell, is going to be me rereading Twilight since like high school. Currently Monday, the 30th. I just finished These Violent Delights. I have picked up Twilight. I haven't started it yet. I have to start Race Woman Class by Angela Y. Davis, which is going to be, I was asked by a good friend of mine, Rachel, to do part of her like feminist book club. So we have a live stream that'll be going on the 11th because we've all been really busy and couldn't do one at the end of the month. I'm about to do some laundry and just kind of relax for the rest of the night and work on my bullet journal. But I thought I'd start this vlog off before I get into it and just show you guys how old this is. I got this book probably in the 7th grade, I want to say. Like, the cover doesn't look too bad. There's a lot of creasing because I wasn't that like careful with it. It's like some chipping. I don't know if you can see that, but like some chipping. And like, I don't know if it's just like kind of where I stored it or what, but I think it was where I stored it because I stored this in my close to my heater. Why, I don't know, but like, she's a little crispy. She's been through a lot. This was a book that I reread like almost religiously back in middle school and through a good chunk of high school, because I read a lot, but it was mainly all just rereading. I don't know why, but that was all I did. So I have a bookmark in here if I have time from working on my bullet journal and laundry before bed tonight. I will try to read this a little bit. Right now my Kindle is charging because I let it die, so I have my Libby book in there, of the book that I will be reading for the live show. So yeah, but I just thought I'd start this channel off. I talk about Twilight quite a bit on the channel. What started my love of writing. It got me back into writing after so long. I have a really strong love of paranormal romances because of it. And I haven't read it on this channel. And it's not so much for me to be like, oh my god, this book is so great. Like, wow. I talk about it quite a handful of times on the channel and how it's inspired me. But what I don't talk about is the misogynistic themes around it, the clear racism that is in this book. I don't have the Illustrated Guide or Midnight Sun, the gender bent one, or the Short Life of Bree Tanner. I don't think I'll have enough time in the month to read those guys or find them anywhere. But if I do, I'll try to sneak at least like one of them in. Or the themes of this book. So this entire series, which is a month-long vlog of me rereading the Twilight saga, is going to be me discussing kind of those themes and just making it aware, pointing it out to myself that while I do have some nostalgia for these books, it is still problematic and it does still need to be talked about. And if I do, I'll have more of these discussions primarily in New Moon and Eclipse and Breaking Dawn, where we see more of the Quileute tribe and more of a POC kind of situation. And I'll have like creators who have discussed this who are Indigenous and Native American, both TikTok, blogs, and YouTube if I can find them. I'll have them linked. But as of right now, I don't think Twilight has the first book has has a lot of these themes. But yeah, I'm gonna go put laundry away because I would like to have the rest of my night to chill and work on my bullet journal because it's August 30th. Month ends tomorrow and I need to catch up on not only my expenses but also finish my bullet journal. I do have a theme. I'm going to stick with this, apples, because I don't know why I think of like September and like fall and I think of apples. So I'm doing apples and I just have to outline everything and think I can probably draw out some of it and then color everything in by the 1st. So wish me luck, but I'll update you guys when I start this. Alrighty, it is now Wednesday. Let me just set you up so I'm like sitting and I can eat and relax. There we go. So it's Wednesday afternoon, just got back from work. Later today, my friends and I will be going to go see the Candyman movies. That was super exciting. I did get a chance to read more Twilight. I'm about 110 pages in. I'll probably read a little bit more tonight. I think this afternoon before we go to the movies, I'm going to work on a thumbnail for my movie coming on Friday. And then work on reading through Race Woman Class by Angela Davis. I tried reading some of it tonight and I did get through like a couple pages, but I was just so tired that I fell asleep. I'm forgetting that Stephanie tends to write very interesting characters. Like Bella in herself is very interesting. She's a 17-year-old girl who acts much older because she's had to take care of her mother growing up, like all throughout her life. I think she mentions either I don't know if she mentioned it in this book later on or what, but she was basically in charge of like paying the bills and making sure, you know, like things were done normally at a normal pace, and you know, she didn't lose anything because her mother was so harebrained, and she's definitely not used to getting taken care of. So when Charlie, who isn't much of a caretaker himself but does his own little things to take care of her, like, you know, makes sure her room is set up, gets her a truck, makes sure her tires, they have chains around them when it snows, it's a lot for her, and it's very interesting to see her kind of struggle with that, as well as kind of struggle with this weird kind of like, you're a new toy thing with everyone around Forks. She's very clearly not used to any kind of attention on her. I don't know if that's just how Renee raised her, because Renee is very much a very boisterous, in-your-face kind of personality, and I'm assuming with the kind of theories that go around with Renee and Charlie and them creating Bella, that she might have had an influence over Bella being able to have some autonomy and doing things instead of being a caretaker. Because I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a rumor going on TikTok that the only reason why Bella is a shield is because she is a mix of Renee and Charlie, whom have their own power. They have kind of their own powers in their own way. I haven't read Midnight Sun, but I read spoilers, so spoilers for Midnight Sun, on TikTok, where Edward mentions that Charlie has a very quiet mind and his thoughts are very reserved, and like he doesn't hear them as loudly as everyone else's, but it's very quiet and he kind of gets like kind of more emotions out of it, whereas Renee is very loud and boisterous, and it seems like she's telling everyone her thoughts, and that in the midst of telling everyone her thoughts, she seems to have an influence over people, which seems to be the case for Bella, because Bella is like, she's 17. Like, in what world would a 17-year-old give up finishing out her high school career in the hometown she's lived in to move in with her father, whom she doesn't have a very close relationship with, just so her mother can traipse around America? The theory is that is how they created Bella, who is a shield. Because where Charlie was reserved and Renee was loud, Bella learned to kind of control her thoughts, and thus creating the shield powers that we see later on. I also forgot how much of a shithead Edward is. We see him not only go back and forth a lot, which I really enjoy, because I feel like I've only seen the movies since like maybe the end of high school, so we see a lot more of brooding Edward, but in the book we see Edward be a little bit more playful, being like a little bit more joking about how dangerous he is and how you shouldn't be friends with him and all this stuff. So it's a little bit more on the, like, not so much brooding, and I like that bit of characterization that kind of gives him a bit more of a human aspect, and then helps that relationship grow a little bit more. Because in the movies, I don't know why I'm comparing the two. They're similar but different. But in the movies, we don't get to see a lot of the connection that Bella and Edward had. It seemed to be very almost instantaneous, kind of love connection, and then they just kind of were like, oh yeah, I love you. But we don't see like the bits and boggles where they hang out for a little bit, and kind of like Bella gets to see more of Edward and sees that he's playful. I will say though, a lot of the things that happen to Bella are very much masked as her choice, but it doesn't feel like her choice. We see it very much with Edward trying to make decisions for her, like don't be my friend, or like taking her to the what do you call it, the nurse's office when she gets a little tense and takes away from Mike. And it seems like a lot of the things that happened to Bella so far in terms of the relationship has never been on her terms. She wants to get to know Edward on her terms. Edward says no and flees to freaking Alaska for 3 to 4 days. And then she's like, no, I need to get to know and like understand what the frick's going on. Like, you saved me from a van crushing me. And he's like, no. And then eventually he's like, you know what, I'm gonna give up and I'm gonna let myself get to know you, or let you get to know me. So it's the one thing that I'm noticing a lot with like the women in Twilight, is that a lot of their choices aren't their own. They're often a byproduct of the choices that the men have made around them. You know? That's just kind of how I'm getting it. I'm trying to do a little bit more research on women in agency in Twilight, but they're all like academic articles, and like I don't have the brain power to read an entire PDF. Oh, also, Edward is like what, 108? He's 108, you know, he's been through the block of having to gaslight people into believing he's nothing super, like, crazy. However, I feel like with Bella, I don't know, I haven't read Midnight Sun, so I don't know exactly what was going through his head. He's really bad at gaslighting here. Like, I'm not saying you should ever be good at gaslighting, but, like, in terms of, like, being a 100-year-old vampire trying to hide your identity from a world where you have gone to high school a bajillion thousand times, you know, I feel like you should probably be a little better in gaslighting, because, like, being, like, having Bella notice the fact that he has dark eyes and then also like a nice golden color the next time she comes, and she's like, oh, are you wearing contacts? And he goes, no, my eyes have always been like this. Like, dude, if you're gonna gaslight, at least, like, do it in subtle ways and not in such a flooding way that'll confuse her and anger her. Be like, oh no, you know, my eyes have yellow in them, like yellow eyelashes, but sometimes it's not as prominent under certain lighting, or if I haven't gotten a lot of sleep, you know, like, it looks like it's darkened, but it's really just like an offset of, like, the bags under my, I don't know. And then he's like, when she almost gets crushed, he's like, oh yeah, Bella, I was right next to you. But then no one else around them saw. And I'm sitting here, at this point, he should probably have said, oh, I was making my way to you, and I was getting there, and when I saw the car coming, I sprinted. Because then it would make more sense that not a lot of people saw him, because they probably wouldn't have been noticing or focusing on the fact that he was walking toward Bella. Like, I'm not saying he should be gaslighting her. I'm just saying he's 100 years old and probably has had a little bit of practice in turning people off from what he actually is. How is he so bad? Just saying. But yeah, I'm gonna get to those things and I'll catch up with you guys probably after the movie. So yeah. Hello, it is now Friday. Thursday, what did I do Thursday? Thursday I ended up going out to dinner with my boyfriend and his aunt and uncle who are visiting. So I got home and I was like, I have to do my hair still, I gotta go. So didn't get a chance to update because I was also still trying to upload a video. So that's done. Video is uploaded, we're good to go. I did want to update you guys on some reading. Didn't get a chance to read today. A little bit of a personal thing that I don't know if y'all care about, but I am starting therapy for the first time ever. I know you guys are probably like, Therese, you were a psych major. Mental gymnastics, you guys, mental gymnastics. But I did get a chance to read yesterday. I am on chapter 8, it's Port Angeles. So I think this is where, for my memory, it's where Bella starts to piece together that he is in fact a vampire. But I did want to discuss a couple things that I didn't think I was going to have to discuss just quite yet. I'll go more in depth to this come New Moon, because this does involve the Quileute tribe. But in the beginning, Jacob does mention that the Quileute tribe specifically is descended from wolves, and I believe is the closest to the original myth that we see. I have a bunch of notes. So this happens on page 20, and I had the paperback, so if y'all want to look at it. But let me just flip back to that. Oh, there we go, yeah. Because that's when Paul mentions that they don't come there. Let me see. They are descended from wolves. In the original myth, I forgot. I'm going to pronounce this very incorrectly. Let me just pull up my notes again just to make sure I have it. I'm so sorry if I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. I've been looking for the correct pronunciation and I feel like I can't find one. They don't say it. And it's Kuwaiti? Kuwaiti. He was the transformer who traveled to the first beach and saw that there were no humans, so he took 2 wolves and then turned them into humans, which is where they got the descendant from. So now, if you guys go to Quileute, or like the Quileute tribe in La Push, the first beach, you will end up seeing a lot of like wolf iconography. A lot of their dances, I believe, from what I've read, are also based closely to, like, they call them the wolf dances and whatnot. So that's the kind of the one thing that I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I will talk about it more in New Moon. From my research, I am not native, I am not Quileute, I'm Filipino, but I think if you are going to read these books, you should be informed of the things that have been shifted to fit Stephanie's own personal thing, or if you're a white author or someone who is going to write from a perspective that is not theirs, to properly do the research and to not warp him. He also mentions the cold ones in that scene, And the cold ones, if you guys don't know, do not exist in Quileute mythology. Or legends, I should say, would be the more accurate word to use. They don't. According to what I looked up, the closest one is there is a kind of a vampiric myth set in America, in a native tribe. It's just several thousands of miles like across the country. So it's not native to the Quileutes. This was something that Stephanie included to introduce the vampires. Then we see more of Bella's like dreams, and we see a lot of foreshadowing in terms of the werewolves and the eventual vampires and the eventual love triangle that we see. In her dreams, she sees Mike is trying to get her away, trying to get her, I guess, to a normal life, which is one that she clearly does not want, though it is the safer option for her. Then she runs into Jacob, who is like, Bella, run, run, and he turns into a wolf, and then Edward comes in sparkling, as Edward does, and when the wolf and the vampire start to fight, she screams no and wakes up. So this is where she starts her research and starts to do that. And I did want to touch on another myth that she does read upon, because for some odd reason she includes other vampiric myths, but the one she hyper fixates on, or like one of them, is the Filipino one. She mentions the Danag, which is that the Filipinos, the version of a vampire. My idea of a vampire is the Aswang, so I completely forgot this was in the story. But basically, the Danag are they're not even completely part of the Filipino culture. They are, it's like the concept of it is fairly similar. It's that the Danag were in charge of adding taro to planting taro on the fields in the Philippines. That is until one day a woman cuts her finger, and because the Danag is like, let me clean it before like it does anything, he sucks the blood from her thumb and then realizes how good it tastes and bleeds her dry, and then tells other Danags how wonderful humans taste, and then proceeds down the hunting. However, it's not even a full Filipino myth. It doesn't belong to all the islands, just a specific portion of the Philippines. And in some instances, they're gods. A similar thing, a man cuts his finger on a nail. The god, knowing how dangerous it is to have a thing unfestered, takes it out and sucks him dry, and then proceeds down. I just wanted to put that out there because, again, she mentions Philippine. She got it correctly. Like, the myth in itself is correct, but the location itself is not. The location is not the entire Philippine Islands. It is particularly to just one area. I will put the place up here because I didn't write it down in my notes, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say, really, in regards to Twilight. So far, it's just trash romance. I think Stephanie, as a writer, does really well building up romance and building up a lot of angst and whatnot. But in terms of her world building, there is a lot of already pretty significant, kind of, like, I don't want to say plot holes, but pretty odd situations where where you can tell this will be a plot hole later on. And again, the inappropriate kind of usage of the Quileute tribe. If you're going to be a YA author, or someone who is going to write about a place that is not theirs, or a culture that is not theirs, like, do your research. Get beta readers. Like, if you really want to include them, but don't warp what makes this culture them to fit that standard of yours. Not cool. But I am going to go try to refresh my hair with some steam. And then I'm heading over to my boyfriend's. His aunt and uncle, who live here, are holding a fantasy football drafting night, and they have free food. So my boyfriend was like, let's go. So I got it going. But I'll try to keep you guys updated when I read. I am trying to also read through a lot more of Angela Davis's book. So that is slowing me down because it is a denser read. But I will keep you guys updated on what else is going on with this book. I think hopefully from here on out, I should be able to turn my brain off and look at it purely from a writing perspective and not so much as like a researcher and an analyzer, just from a writer. So I'll let you guys know. Alrighty, hey pals, it is now Sunday. I actually ended up having a really bad mental health day yesterday. I don't know exactly what happened, but something happened and it wasn't great. So I just kind of took today to like relax. And I was gonna work on the video that I was gonna upload for Monday, and somehow the screen recording deleted itself, and the only thing left in any of my files is the 6-second screen recording of me trying to remember how to screen record. So, don't know what happened there. So now I'm just gonna go lay on the floor for a little bit and be sad because I was really excited for that video. But anyway, that video is supposed to be me going book shopping for thebookshop.org. But right now I'm just gonna turn on the movie and finish my bullet journal for September and lay on the floor. So it is now Tuesday the 7th, my sister's birthday. She's now 21. I'm not panicking at my impending age. But I did get a chance to read more of Twilight today during my lunchtime. I will have to say that though what the story does really well is that I'm also preparing dinner. So if you see me kind of look a little disheveled and disoriented, preparing dinner, wondering why my hair won't form a cast anymore, it's fine. I'm eating a croissant. But anywho, so far I don't have a lot of complaints about the book. I think the book does really well in terms of building relationships. Edward and Bella's relationship, while it does seem very insta-love and almost rushed from some aspects of it, I think that Stephenie Meyer did an absolutely amazing job at building those relationships and building that very playful kind of relationship that both Bella and Edward had before he got super possessive and very creepy. I think in terms of creating a wonderful romance, it just kind of builds naturally despite a very almost electric beginning. It works. We see Bella, who goes from confused to attracted to crushing to loving Edward. It seems very natural. It seems really natural. We don't really have a problem with them falling in love right away. We see Edward fight against it and then give up and then kind of slowly, in his own way, fall in love with Bella at the same time. He does give hints. There are a lot of hints in this first book that foreshadow New Moon in terms of him saying goodbye. She mentions that in the book. She says, "Oh, it sounds like you're saying goodbye. You're saying one thing, but you're really trying to say goodbye." And Edward's like, kind of, yeah. But I really am enjoying the romance and the build up to it. I think it's a very natural kind of form. And it doesn't feel rushed or overly dramatic in any way. It feels like I'm watching two teenagers in a class fall in love and fall for each other. That had not Jessica been so insecure when she first met Bella, they could have been really good friends. Jessica has a lot of really kind of positive aspects about her in terms of just being a sweetheart. In terms of being a very positive aspect for Bella. But I think she does provide kind of the more outgoing aspect of Bella where it kind of balances out. But the problem is Jessica's so insecure with the fact that Bella's this new girl. Jessica's been here all her life and Bella just hops in, and also all the boys that she likes or are attracted to are interested in her. And now the hot guy that turned her down is also interested in her for some odd reason that she can't focus herself because Bella is so awkward. So I'm gonna get back to cooking dinner and I will talk to you guys in a little bit.
I have to also fill out apartment forms. This is a lot to do today.
I'll update you guys on the book in a second, but I wanted to talk about a package that I got that I mentioned earlier in this video. And I tried for a video. I tried really hard for a video, and then the video decided this camera that I'm recorded me just fine, but somehow my screen recording did not save. So I did mention that earlier in this vlog. But that is, I bought some books from the bookshop.org. It is an organization. I'll leave the link down below. I'm not sponsored, sadly, but it's an organization that you can buy books online, and they will donate some of the proceeds to a local small bookstore in your area. But they will donate a portion of the amount of money you purchased to a local bookstore in your area. They don't have all the local bookstores in your area. I think they have to add themselves into the organization. So I only had one out of the 2 small bookstores in my area, which is fine. The one that I ended up supporting is is a used bookstore as well, so it works out. They are only available in America. So if you guys have any other international options that are available, let me know, and I'll leave them in the description below for all of you international peeps. But yeah, I bought some books just to support them and to support the local bookstores, because I know not everyone, even in America, has access to a smaller bookstore with close to it in their area. So I figured that this would be a good way for some of y'all who can't always reach your small bookstore or haven't been able to because of COVID to support them in your own little way. The books aren't expensive. In fact, some of them were pretty cheap. I ended up buying one of these books, which I'll mention in a quick second, for like 16 bucks when it's literally a new release, and the original price was like 28. So it is not super expensive. I think for 4 books I spent 68 bucks overall, including shipping and taxes. So compared to buying from Barnes & Noble, who has a lot of the books full price, yeah, but I don't know if all books will be available on their website, but I will leave the link down for you guys, so you guys can go ahead and just add your small bookstore, or choose which small bookstore you would like to donate money to, and then just kind of peruse through the options of the books you guys have. I bought my books last week on Monday, and I didn't receive updates on shipping until about Friday-ish, and it came here now, and it is now currently Wednesday. So there's a 5 to 10 business day standard shipping time. Do you need water? But here is the thing. I'm hiding it because my address is on the front, and though I should be potentially moving in a few months, I don't need y'all to know exactly where I am. Let me just open this. So I did buy, like I said, 4 books. We're going to start with the book that I mentioned that is a new release and ended up. But that book is Malibu Rising by Toad Jenkins Reid. I've been looking to buy this for months. As you guys all know, there's been kind of a weird shortage because of COVID, so publishing has taken a hit with how quickly some bookstores, even large bookstores like Barnes & Noble, get their books. When I tried to buy Arsenic and Adobo, they did not have it for at least a good week. Malibu Rising came out in June, and I just started seeing it at Barnes & Noble around mid-July, early August. So I decided to buy it via the bookshop, and yeah. But this is about server culture in 1983. I believe this does follow one of Evelyn Hugo's husbands, so it is set in the Evelyn Hugo timeline, and it follows his children as they kind of throw a huge party, and they're not all greatly aligned, they don't love each other. That's the best way I can put it. The next one is a romance, and this is one of the things I've been trying to do, as you guys know, read more books by Filipino authors. But this one is Once Upon a Sunset by Tiff Marcello. This is an adult romance novel. I will read the back for you guys because I actually don't remember a lot about this, but this is not her debut. She's written other ones, but this one says, Diana Gallagher Carey, a Washington, D.C. OBGYN at a prestigious hospital, immerses herself in work to bury her grief over her granny's death and her breakup with her boyfriend. But when she makes a decision that results in bad press for the hospital, she's forced to go on a break. When her free-spirited mother Margot stumbles upon a box of letters from her grandfather Antonio Cruz to her grandmother from the 1940s, Diana is spurred to action. Diana and Margot always believed that Antonio died in World War II. When they learned he lived through the war and that they have surviving relatives in the Philippines, Diana embarks on a once-in-a-lifetime trip that could change her future forever. I believe, I think I have heard good things about Tiff Marcello. I believe Mari from Mackin Books. I'll leave her link down below. Has mentioned this book. I believe Kate has read this book and has also enjoyed it.
So I'll let you guys know what I think when I read this. Should be a fun, cute read. It does go to the Philippines, but I don't know why. I think I might also read it for December just because, like, there's nothing more Filipino than Christmas. This one is a book that has been on my radar for a hot minute, and that is Nocturna by Maya Montagna. I have heard nothing but good things about this book. I have heard so many people try to get me to read this book. I finally bought the book. I don't know what it is about. I will read the synopsis. To Finn Voy, magic is two things: a knife to hold under the chin of anyone who crosses her, and a disguise she shrugs into as easily as others pull on cloaks. As a talented face shifter, Finn hasn't seen her own face in years, and that's exactly how she likes it. But when she gets caught by a powerful mobster, she's forced to steal a legendary treasure from Castilian's royal palace or be stripped of her magic forever. Following his older brother's assassination, Prince Alfair? God, that's European. Maybe. Alfair is first in line to the throne, but he can't help feeling that he'll never live up to his brother's legacy. Riddled with grief, Alfie is obsessed with finding a way to bring him back, even if it means dabbling in forbidden magic. But when Finn's and Alfie's fates collide, they accidentally unlock a terrible ancient power that has the potential to devour the world. Now the two must race to vanquish what they unleashed, though it will mean facing the deepest darknesses of their past. The sequel is already out. I've been meaning to read this. This has been on my book for a while. It's a paperback, so we all know my struggle is going to be with trying to finish the series. If a book for it has come out recently, or is in the works to come out recently. And the last book is a booktube, I guess, favorite by this point, and that is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I have had a lot of friends read this. They have all loved it. My roommate has seen the movie and she recommends reading the book. I need to read the book, as you guys can tell, before I watch the movie. This book down, but this is a classic, one of the more, I suppose, easier to digest classics out there. Follows these four sisters during this time, and kind of, I believe, is hailed as a feminist novel of its time. I don't know how feminist it is or if it's actually feminist, but I will enjoy reading this in Christmas time. But yeah, super excited. But if you guys want to know more about thebookshop.org, I will leave a link for them down below. If I find or hear of any other situation similar to the bookshop, let me know in the comments. I will add it to the description, or I will pin your comment. Something. I think it's a good thing to be representing and supporting small bookshops in their own way, especially with the rise of COVID. You can't necessarily go. And like I said, I know as small as America looks, she's big. So I know that not everyone can travel however many hours or however many minutes to go to a small bookshop in their area. I'm very thankful that I have at least two within like 10 minutes. Not everyone in America has that opportunity, and I know that a lot of them would like to support more small bookshops. So here's a way to do that. Because I know my small bookshops do not have their own website that categorizes what books are available. So thought I should go ahead and do that. But yeah, so I like what I've gotten from the bookshop so far. I think in the future it'll definitely be one of the places I go to buy books that's a little bit, I guess, more reasonable, because this is, like I said, I think sticker prices is like about $28-30, and I got this for $16.99. So, like I said earlier, I do actually enjoy the prose. It's very easy to digest. There are some instances where the prose does get a little weird. In those instances, it's probably from an editorial standpoint and from a reader and editorial standpoint, it's better to say he smiled crookedly, he flashed his crooked smile, something like that. It gets the point across without having to repeat it so many times. The next point is when she's meeting up with him to go hiking. She goes, "I ate the food without tasting it." Which I'm like, okay, unless you are ill, you're gonna taste food, even if you're eating in a rush. I think a better way to have phrased that is probably didn't savor my food. My excitement had me not relishing the food that I was eating. I didn't realize how bland the food was because I ate it so quickly. You know, something that implies that there's flavor there and it makes sense. Like, you know, it's a vampire book. You can only have it make so much sense. But in the parts that seem natural to people, that are mundane, probably should make sense. I also need to know who Stephanie's editor is, because I low-key don't want them as mine. It sounds harsh. It does. But I think that some of these words and phrases would have been better off had the editor been able to have a stronger hand, or the editor was more aggressive in what the book needed to be a more mature thing. Because, like, I'm not gonna lie, Kristen Stewart even brought this up in an interview. How does laughter sound like bells? Because when I think of bells, I think of the bells of Notre Dame, which are really deep and encompassing, or like a bell in a hospital, or a hotel lobby, or a restaurant where you ding it and it's very harsh and attention grabbing. I guess a better way would have been to describe his laughter as like reminding her of church bells, warm, inviting, joyous, something to kind of keep pushing the fact that, you know, he is this very inviting and enthralling creature. But telling me that his laughter sounds like bells has me thinking of like a dog bell or a cat bell or a cowbell. It's just a very vague description that doesn't really give me a lot. If anything, I feel like it sounds like his laughter is annoying. The other thing is a problem that I personally find in first person, specifically when describing things. This is through the lens of the person that's narrating. There's gonna be a lot of show and tell. However, it does slip into like, oh yeah, I could feel the shock and hurt on my face, which again is very telling and doesn't really describe us what shock and hurt looks and feels like to Bella. I feel like in that instance she probably could have said like, my jaw dropped and my cheeks warmed while my eyes stung as if I had just been slapped. We can tell the shock from the jaw drop, the hurt from the warming of the cheeks, and the stinging of the eyes implying tears. We get that same effect, but we also get a reaction from the reader. Because when I read those things, I typically flinch because, you know, she is hurt and you do kind of flinch away from that. Sometimes I know some readers will like drop their jaw actually, or they'll think of a time when they got actually slapped and can recall the shock and hurt that came from that slap, rather than just telling me. That I feel like does get a little bit redundant and a little kind of annoying in terms of like just writing, because it seems like very immature writing, which is very, very accurate, because this book was never supposed to see the daylight. She literally got like picked up after like a few people and it got swooshed to publishing right away. Now let's discuss the topic of consent and choice when it comes to Carlisle turning people into vampires. None of them had a choice. None. We see that Carlisle kind of has this weird moral high ground where he only turns people who are dying. That implies that he is creating literal monsters who have no concept of what is about to happen to them and what they are capable of doing until they wake up. Whereas someone who is willing, i.e. Bella in the future, it seems wrong to him because it goes against his morals.
Hey everyone, it is now Friday, and I finished Twilight last night. Finished it last night. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I just want to give you some updates about life in general. I'm getting a new apartment. My roommate and I found that it's a lot. Technically the rent is like $20 more than what we're paying now, but it'll be cheaper by at least a couple, like $100 or so dollars come next like lease year, because it went up by $200. But yeah, so super excited about that, and which means you guys will be getting vlogs during Trick or Treat-a-thon, because, well, I was gonna vlog anyway, but now moving vlogs in October, I mean. But like I said, I don't know why I'm standing, I just have a lot of energy. despite me being exhausted, I'm literally about to take a nap once I'm done finishing this vlog up. Like I said, I don't have the book. I shoved it back in the closet where it belongs, and I don't want it to get back out. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Things that went well, which we'll write down here. I thought the writing was, the build up to the relationship was very nice. I liked how it was very slow, and like you could tell they were gonna fall in love, but it wasn't like very insta-lovey. I also like some of the prose. I think that Bella is a very well-spoken character, and it was her descriptions were very descriptive. I personally enjoyed her kind of willingness to learn more about it and how she learned about it, using more modern technology and everything. Things that I hated and that overall kind of dinged me. Again, the improper use of Quileutes' original myth to involve the Cold Ones, which aren't part of the Quileutes' like mythology. I will discuss more about that in New Moon, because that's when it gets a little bit heavier, when we learn more about the Quileutes and everything, and why that's so problematic as a writer, preferably specifically a white writer who manipulated a situation to make it her own. I didn't like some of her descriptions. Some things, like I said, there was like, you know, laughing like bells, just the repetitiveness. There was one that was like, I felt the moisture in my eyes. Just say you're crying. Just say you're crying. My camera's dying. To the phone. We're wrapping up the vlog on my phone. I'm trying to figure out how to, there we go, better. I also forgot another pro that I wanted to mention, but I realized that there's a lot of good foreshadowing. We get a lot of foreshadowing in, because I know that this wasn't supposed to go into a YA kind of quartet. Forgot the word. It was supposed to start out with just Twilight, and then we jump ahead to Breaking Dawn / Forever Dawn, as Stephenie Meyer implied. So she had to fill in a lot of the gaps with the second 2 books, or the subsequent books. But there's a lot of foreshadowing. We see foreshadowing with Mike in the future, and just kind of representing that life that she does not want, which is a normal human life. We see the foreshadowing for Jake and turning into a werewolf and that love triangle. We also see a lot of foreshadowing, and at this point almost blatant, stating that Edward will leave. He mentions it a lot, like Bella mentions it a lot, that he's like talking as if he's saying goodbye but doesn't really want to. He has implied that he's going to leave. He's implied that he's going to stay as long as it's best for her. But it's basically there that his decision's made, that he will be leaving in New Moon regardless of what had happened. But yeah, overall, I like the basics of this book. I like kind of the angst and where it'll go. And I like that Stephenie is a fairly decent writer where it is. But I think overall, what dinged it for me was, you know, clearly the terrible use of brown people on her book. The kind of really immature writing style. I feel like an editor should have put their foot down and been like, no, describe what the fuck a laughing bell sounds like. And yeah, those were kind of the things that got me. There were other individual things, as obvious for Twilight, but this is the first book. This book was never meant to see the light of day. Like I said, I will discuss more about like the race, and as a white writer, you should be more conscientious of how you use race in your stories, or as a writer in general. But I'll discuss more of that as we get into Eclipse and Breaking Dawn and New Moon. But yeah, that is it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and seeing me kind of reread Twilight and enjoy the bits and not like the bits, as well as kind of analyze the little parts of it that made sense. If you guys like this video, guys, you know what to do. Hit like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Until then, check out bookshop.org, and hopefully you guys have a good week. Bye!